Hello and welcome to Word Wizard 3. This week we'll be looking at tables. So if you go on the tabs and you go to the practice document I've got open, and you go to insert, you can see that one of the things you can insert is a table. So if I click on that, you can see that I can set the number of columns and the number of rows. You can always change that, so don't worry about too much. So if I select that number 6 by 7, I've got a table 6 by 7. The purpose of a table is to contain information, so let's put some information in. Name, surname, age, class, house. And I've got an extra column. Well, don't worry. I just select that column, I go right click, and I can go up to where it says delete and delete the column. Make sure you don't click table because that'll delete the table. I've deleted that column. I could decide to format that, so I've selected it. If I go right click, I can choose bold, I can go to cell shading, and whatever I've selected will become shaded. And I can go and put some names in there. So I've got Abigail, I've got Betty, I've got Carmen, I've got Dudu, and that's it. I've got too many rows. Don't worry, just select. You don't need to select them all. I select those two, go right click, go up to delete, and go rows this time. And that will take away those rows. To continue the table, it's Abigail Aardvark, Betty Buck, Carmen Camel, and Dudu Deer. Put in some ages, 13, 14, 13, 14, class, low 5, 1, whoops, low 5, 2, low 5, 3, low 5, 4, and houses. The best house of all, of course, is bears, then there's cats and lambs, something like that, I think they're called cats and lambs. Anyway, so I've now created a table. So I can format this table in different ways, and I can still do this in the Cloud document to a certain extent. So if I go and I click these arrows and I right click, you can see that I can go, for example, and change the alignment. So if I click center, you'll notice it's pushed the whole table to the center, and the reason for that is I selected the whole table. I could go and put the table on the right, so I could do it that way. Now some of these columns are a bit too big, so house, I just go, take my cursor, put it over the line till it turns into a double-headed thingamabob, and then I can just drag these columns until they're the size that I want them. I'll show you a different way of doing this a little bit later. And I can go to the one for the table as a whole. You notice you can do the same thing for rows. I might want to make that a little bit thicker. Okay, that's not working for this one here. Well, I'll be able to fix that later. What else can I do? I've got cell shading. I can insert more. So if I go here and I right click after deer, you notice I can select, I can do above, I can go below, to left or to right. So if I want one more column, I can create one. I'm going to go Control Z. So I've pretty much exhausted what I can do in the Cloud version on Office 365. So if I go to editing and I go open a desktop app, I'm going to be I'll get a file that I can do a lot more with. So if at all possible, install the desktop app. And you can see here, there's a table I created earlier, and here's one now. So if I go to the table and I right click on it, you can see I've got something called Table Properties. But before then, I've got something called AutoFit. So I can AutoFit to the contents. So I can do that, and it makes all the contents kind of fit in place. If I right click again, and I choose Table Properties, I've got Borders and Shading. So if I click Borders and Shading, you'll notice I can click None, and apply it. You'll notice it applies to the table. When I click OK and OK again, you'll notice it's removed all the lines between the columns. So table properties, borders and shading. If I want to put them back, I could choose a kind of heavier style. And if I click here, you can see you can remove the one at the top, or you can put it back. You can remove the ones in the middle, or you can put them back. Remove the one at the bottom, or put it back. Remove left and right, remove or add the center. So you can play with these and apply it to the table. You can go and choose the color. So that will choose the color and how thick it is. So I could make it really thick. Click OK. Let's see what that does. So it's made it really thick. It hasn't kept the color. And that might be because of the line style. So what else could I do? Well, if I go there and I right click, I could go and I could go cut, and I could move my table, put it somewhere else. Let me just put some of that text back. If I go right click on the table now, you'll notice I can go table properties, and if I click on the table at the top here, I can choose to align my table, because I've selected the whole table, either to left or to center or to right. So let's say I put it to the right, and then the text wrap, I can make the text wrap go around the table. So what that does is it takes the text and wraps it around the table. I could go and right click on the table again, and let's say I put it into the center, it would wrap to left and to right. That's probably not a very good idea, so I'll put it right again. For the rows, I can set different heights. I can allow the row to break across pages. So if this table goes over more than one page, it will carry the header with it, and it would repeat the header at the top of each page. So that's quite a useful thing to know how to do. I could make the columns particular widths in centimeters and particular cells. Vertical alignment means, does the text go to the bottom, the top, or the center? So if I click center and I go OK, you can see what's happened here. Even though this row is thicker, the text has now gone to the center. It's no longer at the top. So that's quite a lot you can do with tables. And there might be a few more things. Let me just go and have a look. Oh yes, of course. You can merge cells. So for example, let's say I wanted Abigail Aardvark to be in just one cell. If I select that cell and I go and I look for the merging, I'll need to right click there, and where is merging? There we go, merge cells. So if I choose merge cells, you can see what it does. It's kind of joined it into one cell. If I wanted to split the cells, so let's say Betty Buck, if I right click here and I go split cells, I can choose to put it in two columns but just one row. And now what I've done is I've got two cells here, and she's Betty Buck, but she's also known as Baboon. So she has, well, you can see that I can break up the cells. And you can take any cell and you can right click it, and you can go into the shading and change the color of the cell. You can play with stuff and you can do all kinds of fancy things. Go into the practice document, play with these things, see exactly what you can do with them all. Have fun with it, because it's great fun. And when you're ready, if you go File, Save, so you want to save your document. So I'm just going to click on the Save icon. That saves the file. And then if I close my document, I can still go Continue here, and it continues in the cloud with a little bit of luck. So I think it's because I'm working inside Teams. It's not opening back on the cloud, but I should keep my changes. It will distort them. So you won't see all your changes in the Word document, but they are still there in the desktop app version. So practice with tables, see what you can do, try and do as much as possible. Try and break your document. To be frank, press whatever you want to press to try and break it. Just so that you're aware of it, you can always delete a document and start again. And once you're happy, do the quiz.